Okay, we'll go in 5, 4, 3, 2. Okay, we'll go in 5, 4, 3, 2.
November 18th. I am Jay Rosenthal. Over there is Joe Burke. He's my co-founder and editor-in-chief. And in the middle is Adam Terry from Cantrip. Adam, is anything going on in the hemp-derived THC beverage space? Anything?
It's all quiet. I've been on leave, and as far as I'm aware, nothing has happened since I left in the last week of October.
Ignorance is bliss. That may be the next beverage you guys release. You have a new child, I believe. Like, how is it, before we even get into the meat of it, how is balancing the two things for you? You did post, I think it was on Twitter or X, where you're quite visible. How's it been going over the past couple of weeks?
Things have been good. I mean, it's good to get some time to connect with my newest son. He's 4 months old now, and his mom just went back to work, so now he gets to learn to be comforted by me. And regardless of what's going on in the industry, a business is a certain portion of your life, but a kid is forever. So, we're going to try to balance two things. My initial plan here was to disconnect entirely for 5 weeks, get off of Twitter, and just connect with my son and forget about the internet. And then that just became not an option. Unfortunately, there are certain things you have to do when you run a company that is entering a crisis period for a category. So it's great to connect. He's helping me keep grounded, I think, during a time, and otherwise I would my head would pop off and I'd float away.
Yeah. Adam, it's good to see you still in the X/Twitter content mines. It's been sort of an interesting week. I think, it's rare that hemp policy, cannabis policy breaks containment and becomes this sort of, popular mainstream topic and all the views that you get out of that. Just to start off, Adam, what are you planning to do to kind of push and advocate for Cantrip, for the sector over the next 360 days until this law goes into effect?
Yeah, it's a really good question. I mean, and it's what's on everybody's mind right now. How do we proceed? I mean, I think the first thing we do is we stop and think, why are we in this situation? And are there any parts of this legislation that are like positive and meaningful? And I think there are. I mean, there are dissenting voices on this, but I think it is largely agreed upon that synthetic cannabinoid soup has been a major problem in this country, as well as massive amounts of trademark infringement that are products that are sold to kids. Now, a lot of that is just straight black market weed, but the way the hemp market was set up can further confuse the problem. And so there being sort of a broad swath takedown of some of the more shady products in the hemp category, I think is a positive thing. And now it becomes, a question of, can we legislate anything that will prevent the loss of access to cannabis for millions of Americans that exist across, the U.S. South and across most of, America that doesn't otherwise have access to dispensaries. And so in navigating this, what I'm looking for is I'm looking for this moment. Like you said, hemp and cannabis policy have broken containment for the first time in a while. That does happen occasionally, but I think this is going to happen in a bigger way than has ever happened before, because I was an activist in cannabis from 2010 to 2015. In 2015, I formally joined the industry in the medical program out in California. I've worked in medical cannabis in Cali. I've worked in medical NREC in Mass. I've worked in medical in New Hampshire and Maryland. And in all of this 15 years, I've never seen a moment where people had access to cannabis and then lost it so abruptly. And so on Veterans Day in 2026, millions of people, including many veterans, are going to be losing access, not just to THC products, but to most CBD products too, because as far as I can tell, this bill will criminalize the actual process that it takes to make CBD isolate. And most of the full spectrum products that people make contain more than 0.4 milligrams of CBD per container. And so that many people losing access to something that's become such an integral part of their lives is just going to it's going to devastate communities. I think it's going to politically activate people as we go into a really tough election year. And so what I'm advocating for is as many people get aware as possible, as many people develop relationships with their representatives as possible. So when there is inevitably some sort of vehicle moving in Congress in order to fix this problem, either raise the THC milligram caps on hemp, or in my opinion, go for full descheduling of cannabis and throwing some amount of this policymaking back to the states. That is, where I'm at. We're still watching, we're still preparing, but we're going to be ready to activate once something starts moving.
Yeah. We've talked about this on the show a lot, and our listeners, viewers, readers, watchers, whatever you want to call them, will have heard me say this terrible metaphor before, but it's about squeezing the toothpaste back into the tube, right? And it seems like, Rand Paul tried his hardest to ensure that didn't happen. It is now happening, and I think, Adam, you spoke about that well. There are states, red states all over the South that are very far off of having legal regulated cannabis sales, and the hemp-derived space was the only way that many of these consumers could get their cannabis products. Adam, what are you hearing from your consumer base, right? Many of them are in those states. Many of them, rely on cannabis and THC products for more than just getting high. It's wellness as well. So what are you hearing from them, and how are you looking to ensure that they will have the products they need?
Yeah, I mean, what I'm hearing from customers is that people are terrified. A lot of people, we only make really THC products, and to be honest, most of our products are positioned for entertainment purposes. Like, we are not a brand, I think, typically known
Right.
for wellness, though a lot of people find it in our products anyway. And so a lot of people are concerned that they're not going to be able to get what they need to go to sleep at night, to feel less anxiety, to deal with PTSD or epilepsy. And we have some proportion of our customers who are affected by these things. And in terms of, preventing them from losing access, I don't have many answers for them other than we need to work on this politically. Because, I mean, just as a matter of clarity, they do currently have access to regulated cannabis. Hemp is very regulated in Tennessee, in Kentucky, in Georgia,
Sure.
in Florida. And while there are a lot of people who break those laws, there's a lot of people who break laws on selling cannabis in states that do have dispensaries too. And so these people will be losing access to it. And they're not going to suddenly, Tennessee isn't going to suddenly push a ballot initiative to legalize recreational cannabis overnight. And we have other issues too with the rec system as it stands up. I mean, because of the way you have these state legal programs, you can't move stuff across state lines, you can't get economies of scale. People don't really grow that much CBD flower in dispensary states. Here in Massachusetts, it's almost unheard of to even grow a high CBD flower product. And so most of the minor cannabinoids sold in the Massachusetts market are produced at a single hemp processor in the state, because by law, you must buy minor cannabinoids from a licensed Massachusetts hemp processor. And so there's basically one guy who does all the processing for CBN and THCV, and CBC and CBG, and sells it to those to the dispensaries so people can get access to those products. And without hemp, all of that is going to vanish as well. And so, this is a material threat to everything outside dispensary states, and really inside dispensary states, everything that contains minor cannabinoids.
Can I ask you another question, sort of broader? Because I think the first time we had you on, you talked about the evolution of like you calling distributors, I think like in Minnesota, and eventually distributors calling you in Minnesota and other places. They're like, have you heard from them? Like, are they said, okay, well, we'll keep carrying products for the next 360 days, or are they also interested, concerned, or are they just more part of the supply chain that can go away tomorrow? Like,
Yeah.
Are you hearing?
Yeah, I'm hearing a lot. The distributors, most whom we spoke with, are carrying on for the moment. I don't think they'll carry on for 360 days. It's more like a 180 days and we'll reassess type of thing. We need to see a legislative vehicle moving. But all the alcohol distributors we work with are incredibly supportive of the category. Many of them are very active. You may have seen there was a letter, I think 51 distributors signed on to, asking this move not to be made in Congress. And the big divide is between the people who sell alcohol and the people who make alcohol. So, you really have your big suppliers who make beer, wine, and spirits, who largely came out against hemp and asked for this ban to be put in place. And I think they can be persuaded as well if there was sort of peace order and good government surrounding it, so they could participate. But the distributors have seen huge sales bumps. We hear liquor stores have sales bumps as high as 25 or 30%. think John Halber from Top 10 has reported at least 15% average growth in sales from THC products. And so, there are a lot of people who are supportive of this. I think a lot of them are figuring out a path forward. Some of them are so optimistic that they're still continuing on with various state efforts to try to keep these things legal, even though a little bit of that for us has taken a back seat to try to ensure that we can protect at the federal level. But the alcohol distributors are still on board. They're ever more so than they were even the last time I was on this show. And what we're hearing is that hopefully they can participate in the process to bring something to Congress, because they do have a tremendous amount of influence. And the question remains, can we get alcohol suppliers on board?
Yeah. Adam, what about the hot button question, especially for your viewers on X, how the cannabis industry itself, the THC industry itself, I'm trying to figure out what word is the most descriptive here. It's very split on whether this ban is a good thing or a bad thing. I mean, I think, we wrote in the newsletter, the markets kind of spoke about how bad of a thing that the outside observers say, but many retail investors, in the cannabis industry say that, all these hemp-derived THC sales are going to get added right back onto the P&Ls of state-regulated cannabis dispensaries. Adam, what's your view of that? And I guess the second part of that question is how can we make sure that the entire THC industry writ large is all kind of rowing in the same direction moving forward?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I mean, I think I don't really take retail investors on X that seriously, honestly, as a source of information. I mean, frankly, most of them are anonymous accounts, and most of them are not in the industry. So even though I fight with a variety of people from the marijuana industry on X, I respect all of them for using, first of all, their real names and faces and actually being in the industry rather than just lobbing grenades into it. I know for a fact that Dan Conformer is not actually in the cannabis industry, but that's a conversation for another day. So the way I see it is like, think about it. You got to think about it in multiple ways. There's a lot of ways the hemp industry impacted the cannabis industry. One of them may have been taking some small percentage of sales, but in the most cases, that is not going to swiftly move over. First of all, a vast majority of, I think, the cannabis sales in the hemp side are in states where there are no dispensaries, because a lot of the states, the blue states that have big programs, have banned it. Colorado, there is no hemp. California, there is no hemp. Massachusetts, there is no hemp. New Jersey does have a lot of hemp. But most of the products that are sold, that I sell in New Jersey, we sell a lot of the 50 milligram cans that we make, very popular. And you can't make more than a 5 milligram drink in dispensaries. As far as I'm aware, there are no drinks in dispensaries in New Jersey. And so to say all that demand is going to flow back into dispensaries in Kentucky and Alabama and Georgia, it just can't possibly be true, because they don't have programs, or if they do, they're extremely limited medical programs. So that's one aspect. The other aspect is that as far as some of the products in the hemp industry go, particularly beverage, it's expanding the people who are coming into the cannabis industry. I mean, Boris Jordan said this as far back as 2022 at Benzinga, which is that people come into the cannabis industry through more highly formulated products like edibles and drinks, and then they graduate to concentrates and flour. That is a part of sort of the process. And so when you have somebody buying their first THC drink at Target, they trust Target to be purveying a quality beverage, and maybe they start to enjoy it so much they do eventually walk into a dispensary. Or maybe they stick with the drinks and they look for stronger ones, or maybe they just stick with the 5 milligram drinks. All of those are valid, but you're going to capture a much bigger audience. And so you're going to lose the beginning of that funnel that eventually brings people into the dispensary system. And then there's a third way that, it makes no sense, which is simply that a lot of people will go back to the black market, or go to the black market for the first time. I mean, we have a tremendous number of seniors who purchase our product. 55 plus is one of our strongest demographics. And I don't think they're going to suddenly be buying weed in a Taco Bell parking lot in Tennessee. What they're going to end up doing is they're going to go back to pills. They're going to go back to opiates. They're going to go back to whatever they can get access to, because that's what you do when you're in pain. And so a lot of this demand is going to be absorbed either into the illicit market or into other categories. I'm sure some small percentage of product, of revenue will flow into dispensaries, but largely people are turning to hemp for what they can't find at dispensaries. And part of that is also because dispensaries are just grossly overregulated. So, that's kind of my breakdown of like where everything flows and why, honestly, the market is reacting the way it does. To say nothing of the fact that like this is a step towards prohibition, not away from it. And I live in a state, Massachusetts, where there is a substantial effort right now to overturn legalization in Massachusetts. which I find crazy. But everything I'm hearing is that this thing has legs, and so I'm hoping that I don't sit here 1 year from now with no hemp and no cannabis dispensaries in the state of Massachusetts. But they're not just coming for hemp, folks. They're coming for all of cannabis, which is why this industry needs to work together to codify federal regulations.
Adam,
Well,
I know.
Adam, that's not what we really call contractors, but you can come to Canada anytime you want. We have all the weed you need.
Are they allowing Americans in Canada?
They allow me, and they may allow you on a temporary basis.
That's good to know. We do have passports, so I'll let you know if we decide to take advantage of those.
I wouldn't do it over the winter through upstate New York, but from Massachusetts to here, you might want to wait till late April, early May. Adam, we're coming up on time, but I want to get you to commit to come back frequently during these 360 days, because I think things are going to move swiftly, both swiftly and slowly as the 360 days unwind. And I think there'll be twists and turns that even here, sitting here in November, we won't be able to foresee. So I appreciate your time, both making time from your day job and your real job, which is being a parent, to join us here today to share insight of what it means for Cantrip over the past week and moving forward.
Yeah, no, I'd be happy to come back on. Thank you guys so much for having me.
Yeah, great. Appreciate it. Thanks so much, Jeremy. Thanks so much. Adam will be back again tomorrow. Thanks, everybody.